Donald Trump's decision to pull U.S. troops out of northeastern Syria was interpreted like a green light to Turkey's offensive. Once Turkey launched its strikes, President Trump defended his decision to leave the Kurds, even though they were America's allies in the war on the Islamic State group.
They didn't help us in the Second World War. They didn't help us with Normandy, as an example. But they're there to help us with their land.
Trump did, however, call on President Recep Tayyip Erdogan not to be too brutal with the Kurds.
I will wipe out his economy if that happens.
Europe has urged President Erdogan to stop his strikes and called for an emergency discussion at the UN Security Council.
This military action is not leading to good results.
The bombing began in the afternoon. Smoke rising over border towns inside Syria. Buildings on fire as Turkish jets began striking America's allies, the Kurds of Syria, after President Trump ordered U.S. troops to step aside, essentially giving Turkey the go-ahead. The Turkish president announcing the operation on Twitter, saying it was to neutralize terror threats. But a Kurdish military spokesman says Turkey is targeting civilian areas, and there is a huge panic among people in the region. This video showing people desperately trying to evacuate. President Trump has faced intense backlash for pulling back U.S. troops from northern Syria. In response, threatening to totally destroy and obliterate the economy of Turkey if Turkey goes too far against the Kurds. Today, the president tweeting, "We are slowly and carefully bringing our great soldiers and military home."
Mana bawa ke pos? Polis boy. Yang tadi ini dia. Yang motor tadi. Yang kita usir itu. Yang kita usir nggak mau pergi dia. Cewek ya, Pak ya? Cowok.
There are millions of people in California in the dark this morning, a widespread blackout, in fact, the largest in the state's history. And it's not because of any natural disaster. It is an intentional blackout to prevent disaster. So, John, what's going on there?
It's all about the Diablo winds, Heather, the devil winds that come from the north, which is not something that they experience in this part of Northern California very often. But they are experiencing it. There has been a shift in the wind. And what they're worried is about effectively the power lines being hit by that wind and sparking fires across the state. Things are very dry, climate change playing into this. People have been building houses in increasingly remote areas. And all of this being done, the company says, out of an abundance of caution. PG&E is the name of the company that supplies this power. We're talking about some 500,000 customers, maybe as high as 750,000 customers. But that, of course, can multiply because a customer is just an address, and that could mean 2 million plus people.
Justice for Abrar. That's the rallying cry going up all over Bangladesh University in the capital Dhaka. Thousands of students have been protesting to demand action after the violent killing of one of their classmates at the country's leading engineering school. This is the dormitory room where Abrar Fahad was tortured and beaten over several hours. The attackers, fellow students upset by his political views. Fahad was killed after posting comments on Facebook criticizing deals signed by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina during a visit to Delhi last week. Many Bangladeshis believe the agreements, which include a water-sharing pact with India, go against their country's interests. The suspects are allegedly linked to the ruling party's student wing.
They chant, "No more corrupt government." A key demand of the anti-government protesters is an end to decades of crooked politicians. Since the US-led occupation and invasion of Iraq in 2003, corruption watchdog Transparency International says $450 billion has gone missing. Former MP Rahim Daraji is now an anti-corruption campaigner.
The corruption floodgates opened in 2006 when the Maliki government replaced the Jafari government. There was a law in place before 2006 where a committee had to approve all contracts above $5 million. Maliki changed that to $100 million. Individual ministries then began to approve contracts themselves.
A popular belief among many Iraqis is government departments are controlled by political parties who reward their supporters with jobs and contracts.
Now, in Japan, Rugby World Cup organisers have confirmed that 2 matches have been cancelled as a powerful typhoon moves towards the country. The highly anticipated England versus France match is off and will not be rescheduled. Typhoon Hagibis is expected to make landfall on Saturday, and authorities are advising fans and media to stay indoors.
Yes, even though not lots at stake in that match, a lot of people were looking forward to it. So we've got 2 matches off, England against France, also New Zealand against Italy, although the 2 other matches scheduled around the weekend are still on at the moment. World Rugby, the governing body, says this was a difficult but the right decision. They based it on expert advice and detailed information from weather experts. This super typhoon is the biggest of this season, and it's due to cause havoc in Tokyo and surrounding areas at the weekend. World Rugby say the decision was not taken lightly. That's a phrase that they've repeated. It came up again at a news conference given by the tournament director Alan Gilpin and others in the last few hours.
Extinction Rebellion protests continue on its 14-day campaign, demanding the government take serious action to halt climate change. The group claims its protest is for the benefit of the environment and peaceful in nature. And here in the heart of London, there has been almost like a jolly festival atmosphere. But this is what we've witnessed in the past few days. Roadblocks, artistic performances, a giant octopus, and defacing historical monuments. Research shows that people burning fossil fuels, cutting down rainforest and increased farming is damaging to the environment. But is protesting the best way to effect change? Extinction Rebellion once posed as a non-violent organisation, but their actions and words could appear belligerent.
Other stories, 2 women, aged 87 and 91, have been murdered at a retirement village in Sandridge Park, Port Elizabeth. Their bodies were found bound and gagged at the St. John's Stella Launch Retirement Centre this morning. Their rooms had been ransacked. A resident at the village says she's been complaining about security for some time.
I'm not personally concerned because we are in a private little cottage that I can lock up. But these 2 people were upstairs there. And unless you know there are patients up there, you wouldn't know. So it's an inside job. It's somebody who knows that there are patients up there. Otherwise you wouldn't know because the officers are downstairs.